Hi, welcome to this STAIR Tailored. I'm Sarah Powell from the University of Texas at Austin, and right now we're focused on how can we practice fluency. So fluency practice is really important, and fluency practice needs to be brief. It doesn't need to be a 10 or 15-minute activity, but it needs to be brief, and then it needs to occur daily. So that means if you are teaching students 3 days a week, or if you're teaching students 5 days a week, it needs to occur every day you provide math instruction to your students. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a few different math fluency activities that are brief and that you could use every day. So the first activity that we'll look at is this one here. This activity here is called Cover, Copy, Compare. So what happens here is you present students with sets of solved problems. So here my problem is presented, and you might have 10 or 12 of these on a page. And so the student reads the problem. 13 minus 4 equals 9. Then they cover it, maybe just with a index card or sticky note or something like that. And then the student copies it, and then they write the entire problem again right here. Like 13 minus 4 equals 9. And then we uncover it to compare. So this says 13 minus 4 equals 9, and this says 13 minus 4 equals 9. So we did a great job on this example of our cover, copy, compare. But it's very simple. Usually it takes students maybe just about a minute or so to solve these problems. And I'll go ahead and erase this example so we can go to our next slide. But you could see where if you students needed practice on subtraction, you could give them a set of subtraction facts. If students needed practice on multiplication, it could be a set of multiplication facts. It can be whatever you want it to be. Now another example that's kind of similar to cover, copy, compare is this example here, and we just call these file folders. So what happens is you have a set of facts here. And you know, the thing with fluency practice is it's important to group facts meaningfully. So I think if you look at this list of facts, you will see that all of these have an addend of 6 or 7. Those are some trickier addition problems for students to solve. So I've meaningfully grouped the fact practice that the students are going to receive. Now here with the file folders, here are all the sums, but we're going to cover that up. We're going to fold that over. And then students can write their responses here. I'm just going to write mine here because that's where we can see them when we are looking at our presentation here today. But all I do is I just answer, well, 6 plus 3 is 9. Then I look at 7 plus 1, and that's 8. And 6 plus 4 is 10, and so on. And I just go down the list. And then you uncover those, and then you compare your responses to see if they're correct. Again, it's a very simple activity, but it's something that students can do in 1 or 2 minutes, so it's brief, and they could do this every day, or maybe it's just one of the fluency activities that you do in a week span. Now another activity that you can do that is also brief and you can do every day is this activity here called taped problems. So we present the students with a page. Here I have a page of multiplication problems. And again, notice they're meaningfully grouped. All of these have factors that are, I think, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So some of the more difficult multiplication facts for students. And here you can do this live, or you can also do a recording of this. So what happens is you read the fact, and then you give a 3 to 5 second pause, and then you say, in this example, you would say the product. So here I would say 6 times 5 equals 30. 8 times 6 equals 48. And in the time that you say that, so if the student hears 6 times 5 equals, they try to write 30 in the box. And then they try to write the product here, and the product here, and the product here. If they are not able to write an answer by the time it's heard, either in person or on the recording, they just don't answer it. So it gives you a really good idea of the facts that students have automaticity with and the facts that are a little bit more difficult for students. Another good activity that we can do to build fluency is using flashcards. So there's some pictures of flashcards. I also brought very similar ones here. But with these flashcards, you're just going to show these to the students. And so you hold up a flashcard. I'll just pick up any old flashcard there. And I think that might look a little bit backwards to you. But this flashcard here says 2 plus 9. And then the student should give a response within 3 to 5 seconds. And what we usually do is if the response is correct, we put it in a correct pile. If it's incorrect, on this example, we would ask the students to count this up or look at their multiplication table, because we don't just want to keep going through facts that are answered incorrectly or not at all, but we want to give students strategies to solve these facts. But we always time flashcard practice. It should really only be timed for about 1 minute. Maybe you might do 90 seconds. And then at the end of that, it's good to count up the flashcards that were answered correctly. And a really awesome thing to do is do some graphing with students. So here, if I was doing on day 1 and maybe I answered 10 correctly, I would color in up to 10. And then next day we do this, we'll say, okay, well, yesterday you answered 10. Let's try to do more than that today. And you will be amazed at how quickly students' scores go up by combining flashcard practice with this goal-setting activity. It really encourages students to become more fluent and do really well with their math facts. Another math fact activity that we can do are these sets of magic squares. So with the magic squares, there are 9 squares, and what you do is you cut them apart and you put them in a little baggie just like this. And this is a set of addition magic squares, but they also have a multiplication set. And you can see the target sum for this baggie. It's kind of hard to read, but it says 12, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to solve my magic square right here, and you can draw a little like tic-tac-toe board if you want. I'll just do that today for us. Students don't have to do it, but I'm going to put my target sum here in what we would consider like the bottom right-hand corner, so 12 right there. Now, I'm going to look at all of my cards, and actually when we do this with cards, we just move them over. I'm doing the writing today. Now I'm going to look at these cards and say like, well, are there any numbers that also sum to 12? Well, I see very quickly 6 and 6, so 6 and 6 sum to 12. And then I also see 8 and 4 sum to 12. So I'll go ahead and put those there. So what we're going to do is the rows are going to sum to the number here on the far right-hand side, and the columns are going to sum to the number in the bottom part of the column. Now I look at the rest of my magic squares over here, and I'm going to first find 2 numbers that sum to 8. So I see 5 and 3. So I'll go ahead and arrange those right here. So 5 and 3 is 8. Now I want to find a number combination that sum to this 6 and sum to this 6. And let's see, I think my other ones that are left over are this 1 and this 3. I haven't used those yet, so I'll place those in here. And so look at all of the facts that we've created. I'll actually write them here. And this is a good thing to have students do. Rewrite all of the facts that are created by the magic square. So 5 plus 1 is 6. 3 plus 3 is 6, and 8 plus 4 is 12. So this is practice of facts that are closely related, but they may not be in the same fact family. But I also see that 5 plus 3 equals 8, and 1 plus 3 equals 4, and going back to our original, 6 plus 6 equals 12. So I've written all those out, but if we wanted to be creative here, now we could write subtraction facts that we see from this magic square. And I'm not going to write those right now, but I could see 6 minus 1 is 5, 6 minus 5 is 1. So there's a lot of different things that we can do here with our magic squares. And again, these magic squares, you just print them out on cardstock and you can cut them apart, and you can have lots of different sets of them. You can just pass them out to students, and students can just arrange the cards at their desk and then write the facts on their whiteboard, just like we did there. And so it's a really nice brief activity, just takes about 1 or 2 minutes, and you can do it every day, and it's just a little bit different every day because there's lots and lots of different sets of magic squares, and we can try a different set every day. Now another fluency thing that might be helpful, and I'm standing in front of it, it's not very helpful to see, but I've got one of these in real life here. And you know what? I chose a set of green wrap-ups. Those are going to be kind of hard for us to see. So let me go right back, and I've got a set of yellow wrap-ups that's going to be a little bit easier for us to see here. Hold on 1 minute. I've got my set of yellow wrap-ups. Oh yes, those are so much easier to see. Okay. So with this set of wrap-ups, there are a bunch of different what I call keys, all right? And on these, maybe I'm going to choose the key where I am multiplying by 5. And what you do is there's a piece of string here, and so I'm going to now hold the multiplication of 5 up here. And you start the string on the left-hand side of the key. And here, it might be hard for you to see this at home, but this says 2 right here. So I need to figure out 2 times 5 is 10. So on the front of the key, wrap the string around to 10, and then you take it on the back of the key and you come to the next notch that's on the left-hand side. 4 times 5 is 20. 5 times 5 is 25. 7 times 5 is 35. And 12 times 5 is 60. So you keep answering the key, and I will just go ahead and try to quickly do mine. 9 times 5 is 45, 8 times 5 is 40, 10 times 5 is 50, and 1 times 5 is 5. And then at the end, you can kind of notch it down there. It kind of holds it in place. But the coolest thing is on the back of the wrap-up, if you flip it over, it is ridged, and I can look at the reflection in the light, and I can see I answered this wrap-up key correctly because the string matches the ridging. And if it's not answered correctly, guess what? Just unwrap it, and you get to try again. This is a really nice activity, especially if students maybe finish early, say, oh, just go grab a wrap-up. They have them for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. They also have some that are pre-algebra and fractions. Those are super cool there as well. So remember, fluency building, we're talking a lot about fact fluency building, but fluency building is everything beyond that. So how fluently do you work with fractions? How fluently do you work with solving equations and that type of thing? Now, the next way we can build fluency is thinking about using different types of things that students may have in their home and you probably have in your classroom. So we're going to think about how we can use dice, dominoes, and cards to help build fluency. And I'm going to show you an example of this on the doc cam. So one of the things we talked about is we can use dice to build fluency here. And I'm going to get out one of my sticky notes because it's always very helpful to write the facts that we are practicing there. So I have some set of dice here, and I've just got 2 different dice, and maybe I'm going to roll those dice and multiply those together. So students could just say, well, 7 times 8 is 56, or they could also write 7 times 8 is 56. You can see that that's a nice thing to do there. Another thing we can do is look at dominoes. Here I've pulled a domino, and I'm thinking about multiplication, obviously, today. So I can see 2 times 5, and the product there is 10. But we can also use playing cards. Here I'm going to just deal myself 2 playing cards. I'm going to get out another, oh my gosh, got to get another sticky note here to write my fact. So here I can see that 3 times 6, and my product is 18. And kids really like using these because, you know, it's not every day that you get to use playing cards in class, but they can be very helpful for thinking about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division there. Now, I'm going to just stick here with my document cam for just a minute because on the next slide, I talk about some games that we can use. And one of the games that's a really fun game to play right now is this game called Moby. This is really like bananagrams, but for math. And with Moby, you have different tiles. So here are some of the tiles. You can see I have number tiles and I have symbol tiles. And I can place them together to make different equations. So here I might say 2 plus 2 equals 4. Or if I want to switch it around, I can say 4 equals 2 plus 2. But then you bring in some other tiles and I say, well, like maybe I can do 7 minus 2 is equal to 5. So there's a lot of creativity here in the different types of equations that students can make. And I don't have to put it there, I can move it there, and then I can build some other equations on top of that. Besides this game that I just showed on the document cam, there's another game that's pretty cool, and it's called Smath, and that's basically like Scrabble for math. So, and again, students are making equations just like they were doing with the Moby game. And then finally with fluency, there's all kinds of technology that we can use to help students build fluency. If you are going to use some type of technology, either on a phone or on a tablet or through an app, just want to make sure that it keeps track of the fluency that students need to build. So it doesn't just throw out random facts, but it presents students with facts that they need help on. And make sure that these programs help students when the students answer incorrectly. So what happens if you say that 7 plus 8 is 13? Is there like a little creature that pops up and walks them through the correct answer? Is there a visual that appears to help them see that 7 plus, I think I said 7 plus 8, it's not 13, but 7 plus 8 is 15. But with all these fluency activities, I just want you to remember that they should be brief, so 1 to 2 minutes, and they should occur daily. And by daily, I mean every time you teach math to the student. So I hope this helps you think about building fluency, and we will have some other STAIR tailors where we show some of these activities in more detail. Thanks for tuning in.